Welcome back to Indie Housing Market. I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker.
And I'm Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realtor Group and FC Tucker.
What are we going to talk about today? We're kind of chit-chatting about that a little bit besides the crappy-ass weather that's coming our way. It was like 60
I know.
a week ago,
but it's
or
Indiana,
something like that.
right?
And now it's like I don't know if I'm getting rain, ice, or snow, which, like, it'll for sure be rain, right? Like, I mean, that's how that works in Indiana, I feel like.
Well, the last time we were supposed to get 12 inches, I think we got 4. So,
Yeah.
I never believe them until I see it.
Well, but I'm worried because I have to put a sign out on Wednesday.
I used to keep a hammer and a screwdriver and a rubber mallet, and then like the screwdriver, I'd stick it in the ground and just like go like this to get the hole. Then I'd take a rubber mallet and pound it in. I couldn't stand doing winter
So for
signs.
Tucker, we have the metal kind of the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know what the technical term. The metal prongs that go in the ground. And I've hit them with a mallet and a hammer, and like the welds break, right?
Oh,
so
or the big dent at the top by the time you're done. I'm like, okay, that didn't work.
So like sometimes I do wish we had the bigger signs, right? That they put that it's like
the post,
and they put the plastic thing.
Does anybody still do that?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I see them. I think they look really good. The thing with, I mean, this is total just on brand kind of thing, so I don't want to offend anybody, but I don't really care. But the thing with Tucker is, it's the most noticeable sign in the state of Indiana.
Yeah.
Right? Like everybody knows what a
I always
an
say
FC Tucker
it's like
sales
Kleenex.
sign
Like
is.
no matter tissue, this or that, it's a Kleenex. It always gets called a Kleenex, and that's a brand name actually.
Yeah.
But it's very well known by being seen. I will say when I was not with Tucker, I had a lot of explaining to do with the company I was with. Like, who's that?
Really?
Who,
Interesting.
like they'd say the name who.
I guess that makes sense.
And I've never had that with Tucker. If they were from here especially, I mean, what is it, 104 years old now or something?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very well known. But that Tucker tea is, yeah. And they talked about changing it, or there was some kind of a conversation, and I'm like, what?
Well, when Howard Hanna got involved, right?
Right.
What else is it?
But putting out signs in the winter.
Well, people will like call too because Tucker is so synonymous, right? That people will be like, "Oh, it's one of your listings," and I was like, "No, it's just a Tucker listing. It is not my list." I appreciate that you think I'm all of Tucker, but I assure you I'm not. But like our luxury signs are different. Our luxury signs are more like the other ones, and I really like those signs. But like I don't know I still see the ones, like the A-frame ones that fold out. I still see people buy those too. It's just kind of interesting.
Those would blow over, I would think. You'd be getting called all the time. Your sign's down. Your sign's down.
I am like, like I'm a sign Nazi when it comes to signs. I used to call Angel and Jen and send pictures of signs that I just thought, like, I'm gonna sound so bad here, guys, but I don't really care. So. Like
He's in a mood.
I am in a mood. My mom died, so bear with me. I'm very sharp and stabby right now. But I'm going to use that as an excuse for a whole year, by the way. But you're only allowed 2 sign writers, right?
1. We had this conversation before.
Well, but for like open houses on top of it, you can do that, I believe, correct?
Oh, I don't know. They've always said not 2 on top of each other.
Well, I don't do 2 because I think 2 looks tacky. Personally,
right.
So like I don't.
But you do see them.
I do see them. So like mine has my name on the sign, not as a writer.
Right.
First of all, because like I don't need my face on it because like I don't like my face, anyways. Yeah. But I see them where they offset them.
Oh yeah, we've talked about that.
Oh my gosh,
I hate that. Crazy.
Because it's like
you want to pull over and just fix it, but it's on purpose. They did it on purpose.
It's on purpose because it pulls attention, right? But to me, it just looks sloppy.
Noticed it,
right? Mm-hmm. And so like, and then the only one we have talked about this because the one that I saw that was really good is somebody put like the little pinwheels on it, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good, like you put balloons on, and then next thing you know, you're getting complaints from like the EPA because you're putting balloons into the stratosphere or some crap like that.
It's a ways to make your signs stand out. I know people that put night lights on their signs.
I've seen that,
and I thought that was a good idea.
I did
so
too.
They're battery operated, solar operated, and they just shine on the sign at night. I think that's a great idea. I've never done it, but
I looked into it on Amazon. I was going to buy them, and then I don't know. I got distracted, so I forgot to buy any. I think they look really good. The problem is, like, I haven't seen the sun in 10 days. I feel like here, so I don't know how it would still work. But I do like that. I do really like that idea of it. That's a total tangent about what I consider sign etiquette, but whatever, or crooked signs.
Oh,
Sometimes
yeah.
a crooked sign is not your fault. It's the wind. It's
Right.
whatever. Somebody mows a yard and they put it back in. But
The people that mow the yard, they destroy our signs usually. Not destroy them, but the visualization of it is always off.
yeah, it's always
As soon as they
crooked
go,
or
yeah.
cattywampus or whatever.
And then there's the conversation, like I had one put out today for me, and the question was, do I put it like horizontal to the street or vertical to the house? And I'm like, just imagine driving down the street. Would you be able to see it if it was horizontal to the house? No, it has to be vertical. I mean, that's just common sense to me. But, it made me think, it's like the stuff we have to learn in real estate, how to place a sign.
Yeah. The only way I ever do horizontal, right, would be if it's at the end of a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, or
That's it.
that's the tea house where
Yeah.
somebody's going to drive right into it. And that gets to the feng shui thing and some cultural things. Have you ever had anybody say, in the criteria they want for a house, has to be a certain direction? But the thing,
South-facing front
I
door.
never learned this one. Any houses, and now I see them all the time, and I'm like, oh my God, you got a really bad power coming towards your house. It's when the house sits here and the street comes to the stop sign, and it would literally go through their front
Tee
door.
into it, yeah.
It's an energy force coming right at the house all the time. That was what I was told. And every time I've seen that now, I'm like, oh. And one was built in downtown Carmel, and when they tore down the house, I know it wasn't like that, but when they put the house back up, it shifted the location of the front door to right by that. I'm like, I wonder if they thought about that when they put it up, because now they're going to see these, and car headlights coming at your house.
I don't worry about the energy thing because the energy in your house is what you make it. That's my personal opinion. But the headlights thing is absolutely a thing.
Yeah, that's what would bother me, but it was all about energy.
There's a house in my neighborhood that with the street I come down, they have the same floor plan as me. And so they have 2-story windows in the back. And I could see the top of their steps as I was passing. I'm like, my headlights are just blasting into this house. They put up a fence since, and I got rid of it, but that would be super annoying. But I don't know. It's the luxury thing always really kind of scratches me a little bit, and I see people talk about luxury stuff when it's not actually at a luxury price point, and it's none of my business. I care less, but I'm just
that's
whatever,
been decided here in Indiana because
people still do it though, man. People.
I mean, the price point has been told of what it really should be here.
Correct.
In California, our luxury price point is not anywhere near touching it.
No.
So each individual community has its own luxury price point, I think. And then, just...
Or if when you list in Bridgewater or something, and you have to use the Bridgewater sign, and I'm like, that's pretty cool, but also I don't like their signs. I don't know. Anyways, that's all on.
How do we get away on this sign tangent?
It's me. We're gonna blame it on my mom dying. Anyways.
Speaking of your mom passing away, I'm so sorry. You're going to have to do that on Saturday.
Yeah.
But we started talking about the states because I'm working on a house that's in a state right now, and agents who work with anything with an estate, the very first time you do it, be prepared. It's an emotional time for people.
It is
Emotional, and you have to be their sounding board, their psychiatrist, their just. Sometimes they can't even think. They're so deer in the headlights, and you've just got to take it and break it down a little bit.
And sometimes it depends on when you come in the process. Because I've come in really early in the process on one, and you're dealing with probate, and we can't list it yet, and all these other things.
Right now, they want 3 listing prices. They want a wholesale price, the quick buy we offer at Tucker, and the retail MLS price. But there's... I was just saying in regards to when you become a realtor, you have to learn all these different things. I think it's a niche. I really think if you're going to do estates, it's a niche. You've got to learn. I mean, you got to work with lawyers. You have to understand that the person signing the paperwork may not be the one that's making the decision. And in this particular case, I have 5 people making the decision.
That's hard.
It's almost impossible.
And it's hard to communicate with everybody. I've seen them get bad and sideways. We have helped with a lot of estates, and we help clean them out and all of that stuff. And that's a whole process of knowing how to help somebody clean a house out that is in an estate situation. Because there's a lot of trash in the house, but it's it has memories.
Yeah, whose trash is this or not trash? Because somebody wants it. What do you save? What do you not save? I've worked with a couple of people who just have this I thought the one person had a funny attitude about it, but they would have their 4 crates, keep, donate, sell. Daisy Duke gets it sent to her in Texas or whatever, those little crates. And she was so hilarious. But like I said, they're deer in the headlights, and they can't make decisions. And she said, you get 10 seconds to tell me which crate this goes in. I pick it up, you tell me which crate. And if you don't, I pick.
It's hard.
And it was just hilarious to watch because this lady didn't do it in 10 seconds, the first 3 or 4 items. And she's like, got to the point where, Daisy Duke, sell.
Yeah.
But she was able to finally just get it out of her head and just do it because they sit and stare at it forever.
So that's the thing. So I've done a crap ton of them, and I usually do keep, donate, maybe, and trash, right? And I have a dumpster outside. Donate's super easy, right? Keep is really easy. Maybe is stuff that we'll make a decision on later, and we go room by room because you have to tackle one room at a time, no different than packing, right? Otherwise you don't feel any progress and it's super overwhelming. I've done it a ton. I helped my wife do it when my mother-in-law passed away and we moved my father-in-law out, and I was really good with that, and I watched her kind of struggle with it. I was like, hey, I got this is no big deal, blah blah blah. And I dealt with it on my house or my parents' house, and all that shit went out the window. Everything when I'm doing it for somebody else, everything takes 5 seconds that I touch. And I don't want to say 5 seconds, but you know what I mean? It's pretty quick. I can tell by looking at something if it has sentimental value, if it's family, if it's a newspaper article that maybe references somebody. That's really easy stuff to know. But when I was doing my parents' house, everything took 30 seconds because everything had a memory. And even though it was still a no, it took an extra 20 seconds because I was reflect, then toss. Mm-hmm. And it just adds so much time. I was telling you, I was there Saturday, and it took me 4 hours just to go through photos.
But isn't that helpful to you to just kind of do that and actually maybe give the item some respect? Yeah. And it wasn't, I'm not just throwing you away. I'm actually looking at it and remembering and then throwing it away.
So that helped a lot for me. We were talking about this. My mom was bedridden for 26 years. She was in a wheelchair for about, 6 before that. I don't have any visual memories of my mom standing, right? And so, because I was young, right? And so I got to see a lot of pictures of my mom vibrant and standing and young and 24 and all this other stuff. And, it was just really, really cool for me. I got to see my grandma's 56th birthday because, it's hard to picture my grandma 56. Right?
I know.
When I'm that's not that far away from me right now. It's like a decade.
Yeah, I was like, that grandma was so old. Oh, maybe she wasn't.
I've got buddies that are older than my grandma was in that picture. But it was just really neat, and it was really cathartic for me to do that process. But we were also talking about it because, we see a lot of agents flipping right now, and my concern is the market is slow, so they've saved up money, and so they're putting their house, they want to stay busy, so they do that. And, flipping isn't for everybody. I've looked at a lot of flips here in Carmel in the last few weeks, and they're just trash. They're just absolute trash. And so because people aren't putting the effort into it, they're not paying it. They're just trying. It's a 100% ROI, return on investment situation. And you and I were talking about it. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to go in there thinking you're going to make $20,000 on a flip, and then you owe taxes on it on top of it. You may walk with $7,000. And I see. I've been in the business 8 years. I see agents' careers die because they make that a priority and they don't foster their actual real estate business.
Well, I was saying when we were talking about it, the thing about it is I think people say, oh, that's an easy way to get some money. I found out.
Not if it's done right.
Well, I know because I was doing them and I quit because first of all, prices have gone too high for me. But the thing is I would do inspections before and after I was done. And I was there every day to make sure it's correct. I wasn't just going to flip for make money and walk away. Somebody's going to move into that house.
You got to put good product out there. Yeah.
And it's my reputation actually as a real estate agent. If you're a real estate agent and you put out a really bad situation on the market, what does that say about you as a realtor that you don't even try to make sure that it's going to work? with inspections. I'm always amazed when there's been a flip and we find out there's water in the crawl or there's mold in the attic. I'm like, you obviously never even looked here. You just did the bare minimum, and now you've got these major issues. Well, why weren't you working on everything?
But there's some, I do know, like, I don't like to throw things out there like too broad, because I do know some agents that flip and they do phenomenal work. You know what I mean? But what happens is the other people see you do it, and so they think
it's easy.
Yeah, and so I know some agents who take a lot of pride in craftsmanship with their flips, and it really does show. So I don't want to, I'm not trying to be disparaging here by no means. It's just
I've had people actually ask me to buy a house and flip it for them. Like, would you do that? And would you help me? Like, I'll pick out the product and put it in. And no, I'm not going that route. But
I get that. Contractor.
Yeah, I get that kind of a compliment at the closing table, and that makes me feel good because that's what I want to do.
So, but we're talking like, you know, I wouldn't ever like go to my client and say like, oh, I'll buy this off of you, you know, because I'm going to flip it, right? Because I personally feel it's predatory. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. That's just a personal feeling. But, you know, like, how do you talk to your client afterwards and be like, hey, you know, I made you 20, but like I made 40 or whatever it may be, or whatever the numbers
that to
turn
me
out
is
to
a
be.
slippery slope. I know it's legal because you have to have certain documents signed and it's legal, but I don't know. I get back to I want to be known as a reputable agent that's not taking advantage of anybody or whatever. But I don't know how it could look good if I tell my client, I'm gonna pick a number, that their houses should be sold for 150, as an agent who's going to turn around and buy it for that 150. Who's going to be the person that says that's the right number? So, but I say 150, they take it and we sell it for 150, and I turn around and sell it for 250. You know, anything later. No matter if you put 400,000 into it and you put it back up for 250, you look like you took advantage of your client. That's how I feel.
Well, your client's going to see it that way, right? Regardless of whether you did or and I mean we're projecting, right? But so we're talking.
I just don't want to do that
because So I have my parents' house down in Martinsville that I have to deal with. We're talking about estates and all that. That's how we got on all these kind of like tangents. And I have a house and I have a vacant lot next door because in this neighborhood, a house burnt down next door. My dad bought it to not have a neighbor on this corner lot, but it's a buildable lot. It's a great lot. And so I could buy my parents' house, flip it, and build another house. But I think that, like, as a professional, like, that makes sense, right? Like, this is what you should do this, do that. Like, you have this asset, you could do it, it's all paid off.
Yeah, you see the opportunity in front of you, like, why not take it, right?
Well, for me, it's because the dumbest thing I think I could ever do is flip a house that I have emotional attachment to.
Absolutely.
Because I just don't, there's just no way. I will either go overboard or, you know, like, you'll
break down every day you walk into there and see, man, like, it's not worth it.
It's just not worth it for me. And that is a personal preference. I know tons of people who would do it. Good for you. For me, it's more about closing a chapter. You know, whatever ends up coming of all of that estate stuff, we will figure that out down the road. I just don't want to get into all of that, you know, of like flipping a house and then building a house all in like right where I lived, and I'll let somebody else do that lift. You know, that opportunity is there for somebody else. It doesn't need to be there for me, and I'll still be just fine.
Yeah, I think that we all have, like, as a real estate agent, we have all kinds of things that we have to deal with, and deciding to not do something like I said, if you've never done estates, you have to start sometime. Just know that it's going to be a different transaction. If you're going to do relocation, just know it's going to be a different type of transaction because there's so much emotion. I have a psychology degree, thank God, because I swear I use it every day. But just going into a niche like that and then marketing that you are a professional in that, people really need you to be there for them, not as a realtor. There's so much more that comes into it. So just knowing that we do a lot of different, like I said, becoming a realtor, you have to learn so much. I mean, I remember taking Raquel through houses just to show her how to show a house. Mm-hmm. Like, showing a house is I think, a way that you can do it wrong, you can do it right, but just actually it's not walking through and looking at the general look of the house. You have to, like, know how to find signs of problems. And I go around and I do that. That's from, how many thousands of inspections we've done.
Crappy flips will do that. I looked at one and probably should have moved a sink. And it was just like this little half sink. And I stood in it. I was like, this is a tight spot. And I was sitting there. I was like, okay, well, like I can get up to the sink, right? And it was probably recessed by like 24 inches, right? So like you could get in it. And I was like, wait a second. How do I brush my teeth? Like I can get to the sink and like I could turn it on. I cannot perform any sink activities because I had no elbow room. And I've never said sink activities. I don't even know. Like I couldn't shave. I couldn't do nothing, man. But I don't know. I just, like I said, my opinions aren't for everybody. I just try to think of things from a lot of different angles. For me with flipping, I've been involved with helping oversee flips and things of that nature. The reality of it is I am way too busy to do it. I don't have the time. Like when we're doing like 100 houses a year, I mean, that is basically you're looking at a closing every 3 days. That is a lot, right? And so to add on another thing that I need to go put eyeballs on and all this other stuff, like it's just not for me. Maybe one day it will be. I certainly have the ability to do it with all the stuff that I
know
can do.
you. Yeah, you would do very well at it.
But it's just not. I don't know. Like I can only do so many things and be great at them. The more things I try to do, I start to become very average at just a bunch, and like that's just not for me.
I think that's known in everything. A lot of people do. You can't spread yourself too thin, or else you'll be starting to make mistakes.
I've tried it. I've done it. I've made the mistakes. So. But even then, like when you're talking about being a specialist in something, so we had training, or I did when I was new. I took SRES, right, which is senior residential real estate or senior real estate specialist, right? And so that's for people who are, I think 65 and up, maybe. I don't remember the framework.
Well, I hate to say it, but they say seniors are 55 and up, and that kills me. I mean, I'm above that number.
I was going to
and
say,
I
wait a second. There's
not
a reason.
Senior. Come on.
Well, and I'm not close to being a senior. So, but there's a lot of things you have to know about that with Medicaid and like with my mom. Like I had to, we have a house, we have an asset. I can't sell it because it becomes income. So then you have to do a Miller trust, and then half of, there's just a lot to it. And if you don't know that stuff, you could actually end up putting somebody in a really bad situation. Yep. With Medicaid approval and all this.
And if
stuff.
you're saying you know what you're talking about and you just kind of fudge through that, that could be a huge ramification at the end for what actually ends up happening. When I started in 2008, that's when the short sales all started. And I think I've said this before, highly recommend the movie Short. It was almost a tearjerker for me to know that I went through that process. Yeah.
It's a good movie.
But when I first started, I was having buyers looking at short sales, and I started finding out how those short sales that I wasn't even involved in played out. And it was many times as a detriment to that seller because the agent didn't have a clue in what they were doing. So I got the certification for doing short sales because I'm like, I've got to step in and be the person that can actually do this. Not that I could do everyone in Indianapolis, but it was important to me to be certified in that and learn how to do it. And then I could go out and literally find people to help to get through that process, because it was easy to help them get through that process. But if you as an agent didn't understand it, you actually could hurt them very bad. They just lose their house. I mean, I remember I was negotiating with the credit cards, and I was negotiating all this stuff. And I saw people lose their houses because the short sale process did not go right. So.
Even when it's like REO, right? So, which is what banks, real estate own. That's when they own the property, right? So that's a whole process that takes way longer, right? Because they don't care about your timelines. You'd be like, hey, here's an offer on it. You got, like, let's say you gave them 5 days because you're like, oh, it's a bank, it'll take longer. Well, like, they don't meet that often to discuss their REO, right? Like, they do it, some banks do it once or every other week, some do it once a month. And, like, you may not get a response until they meet, right? And then if you respond, you don't get another response until they meet.
Yeah, I've been there,
Yeah, it's just a very long process.
And most buyers can't go through that process, so it's mostly an investor that would end up wanting to do that property. I've just thought that really that when I was going through the short sale stuff, that's when I learned as an agent, I never want to step into a realm of real estate I don't understand.
Yep.
I want to understand it first, and then I will go do it. But to just randomly walk in and start doing relocation, or randomly walk in and accept, because I know,
relocation's the whole thing,
it's a totally different thing as well. But if an agent's all about just getting a sign in the yard, don't do it, because you need to be helping your clients. And if you just think I can do a sign and this can't be any different than anything else, what we're talking about, these items are definitely a different process.
It's I've done a bunch of relo, and I just did one, and I literally put in there how to write an offer for relo.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to. And I bet of the I think I got 6 offers, something like that. 2 of them actually did what I needed them to do.
And you're trying to help them.
Yeah.
Or help everybody, because that's a long process and a lot of paperwork.
One of them sent something over and just added in something like that the house would be cleaned prior to closing. And I was like, well, first of all, that's kind of addressed in the purchase. Like, it used to say broom swept. It doesn't anymore. It says all debris will be removed, right? I've had agents who've been like, hey, you have to clean the house. Like, actually, it says that nowhere. It doesn't even say broom swept anymore, actually. But he was like, hey, you got to add this in. I was like, the relo company ain't doing that, bro. Like, no
You
offense.
can't tell a relocation company to do anything.
Yeah.
They tell you what they are going to do up front. It's in their paperwork. We attach it. You fill it out.
I was like, it's a corporate. Like, who are they going to call?
They don't care.
I was like, they're going to call me. They won't even, they'll be like, just remove it, you know? So,
and there are other people, you never know when they're going to sign it. So when you put in the rules that, give us 72 hours, and they're like, we need to know in 24 hours. Well, it just expired.
I'm dealing with one right now where we're in the inspection process, and it's just like, hey, well, because the buyers actually have to sign the inspection agreement before the relo company will, right? Like, it has to be verbally agreed to. And we had something in there that was just a verbal explanation. And so it was all good to go. And then they're like, oh, well, if you've already done it, let's remove it. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? And so, it's 7 days longer than it should have taken, because it's back and forth and back and forth. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know how to deal with that as an agent or as a buyer or consumer or seller, whatever it may be, it's a very wonky process. So I do know, when I have a relo, I do ask the other agents when they're writing offers, do you have experience with relocation? If you don't, that's fine. I can explain it to you what it's going to be like.
Trying to be helpful, obviously.
Yeah,
you have a seller that wants to sell and a buyer that wants to buy. Let's try and help each other.
Yeah, because somebody taught me once, right? And so I want to teach somebody, but it is
daunting, though. I mean, it can be another 40 pages if they've got their whole. I mean, they give us their seller's disclosure. It's not like our 2 pages. It's like they're 8-10 pages long for the seller's disclosure.
And depending on what relo you do, I would say majority of them, it works in the way that the seller verbally negotiates, and then the relocation company signs once it's verbally agreed upon to. But the seller is actually the relo company, because a week prior to the actual closing that you have agreed upon, the relocation company buys it from the seller and then sells it to the new buyer. So there's a middle party in there that actually purchases, and you just have to know that. And so you're actually not even buying from the sellers, you're buying from the relocation company. You're just negotiating with the current seller.
The phantom seller.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Well, I know, and that to me gets to when I'm doing a list or looking at listings with my buyers, and I look at the listing. What you're saying, they didn't, only 4 out of 6 didn't do anything. Is you've got to read the agent remarks about this house, and look at the documents.
Yeah, look in the disclosures for directions on how to write an offer.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing, though. If you know how to do them, it's really easy to write a very clean offer and get a relo if you know how to write a relo offer. Right?
Well, if you're in a situation when there's 6 people coming at it and only 2 write it correctly, 4 are gone. Yep. Now we're down to 2. Who wrote the best one out of those 2? I mean, these are competitive bids that you have to play the game. And if it's a relocation company, they only have one game, and you're going to do it their way.
It is. They're in charge. And I've tell my team, I think we've talked about it here and then on the other podcast too, writing a good offer is an art.
Oh,
absolutely
and
is.
it can kill your business if you don't know how to do it. And I know buyers that have come to me that fired their agent because they never got a house. They tried 4 or 5 times. I mean, writing an offer, I get told a lot of times by the other agent, that's the cleanest offer I've ever seen. And I'm like, it can't be, but thank you. But it is important that
even as simple as putting, I didn't learn this till I had like a year in the business, in boxes that I don't address, I put NA. Because somebody did that once. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I
No question.
I know you saw it, and
Yeah.
it does not
No
apply.
question whatsoever. I think it's line 71 because I always have to write this in my counter. Line 71 to be NA, and that is the line number where it says we will close on January 30th or within 3 days of final approval. I'm going. Oh, so that could be December of 2025, 3 days after final approval. I want a specific date. And what I love to see was when Relo came back and said in their rules, do not have anything in your purchase agreement that states after, on or before or after. We have to have a solid date. And I come back and I say, we need a solid date. I'm not giving an open-ended closing. And people don't understand. And I don't even know why that's in the purchase agreement.
No, well,
that one bothers me a lot. I have to counter that one all the time.
I don't know why it's in there. I mean, I could probably think of a reason for it, but not off the top of my head.
Well, and talking about writing a clean offer, conversation with the agent 100% before you ever write it, because I have, and you may do this too, but in our agent-to-agent remarks, I put FC Tucker holds the earnest money because there's so many brokerages out there that title does, and title is not who's going to hold it. But if you just call and say, where should we put earnest money, if you just have a question about it at all, because if you send me an offer and you've got a competing against me and they're side by side the same, and you just said title company's going to hold it, FC Tucker needs to hold it. So you're out, and unless you want me to counter, and then I lose my other offer. So anything you put in there that needs to be countered makes you lose the ability to get accepted almost at some point.
That stuff bugs me too. I hate to be kind of snobby like that. But because I tend to see it with smaller brokerages or remote brokerages that do title company. But
it's getting more and more, and I think that's why I have to put in there who's going to hold it.
I wonder why. I wonder. I don't know. I mean, there's reasons, obviously, especially when you're talking about national companies and stuff like that. But
well, I just know I've had a really bad experience with a title company holding my listings, earnest money. They had the buyer. It was. I don't even want to go into it, but we don't have a lot of control if it goes to the title company of getting that back.
Yeah.
You end up in court. You don't have the broker 60-day letter or anything.
To mediate everything.
Yeah. It's out of everybody's control.
That's always been my concern with it. Is like I can't get 2 managing brokers to because
there is a process.
There is a process,
and we can't do the process if it goes somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just all. When you start getting into niches, that is the cool thing about this industry is there's so many niches. And so when I go and I teach agents, if you're a perfectionist, this is probably the worst career for you because there's always more to know.
Yeah.
I don't care how
it's always
long
different the next time around.
Yeah. I'm super educated and, I have, so you're talking about short sales. I've done 2. You know what I mean? Because it's just not a thing.
I love short sales because I felt so good about myself when I got them to the table and they were happy and felt like they made it. They got that stress off their shoulders.
So I did one when I had 2 years in the business, and I did one this past summer. Let's see. I've done 203Ks or home style, or you know what I mean, a reno loan. I've done a couple of those. I don't think a lot of people have done those.
I'm in the middle of one of those. We got our offer on October 31st. We're closing February 28th. It took that long to get the construction loan through. But knowing that up front, I was able to warn my seller this is not going to be. But the offer was written with the timeline being too short, and I had to tell the buyer there's no way you're getting a construction loan that long.
The one I did took 5 months, and people that they want to do it, and they're like, oh, we'll get extra money to rehab it. That's not how it works, actually. It has to go through a 203K. I mean, so 203K is kind of like Nike or Adidas. It's a brand name of a renovation loan, same as Home Style, I think, Home Story, whatever it is. So basically, it's just a renovation loan. To be able to do that, the contractor has to be approved and I don't
All
want to say
drawings
licensed,
done.
certified that they can do it. You have
Right,
to,
yeah, you have to be out of a certain pool.
correct, and you have to pre-pick, like if you want tile in there, which tile you're actually going to use. Like it's all gets priced in there, and then the loan is based off of those materials.
And then you get an
in the
appraiser
appraisal.
with all of that information as to whether or not that extra money you want is feasible.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, here's $20K extra for you to redo your kitchen that you're going to do on your own. That's not how it works, and it is a much different process because people bring it up all the time. I'm like, we can do it absolutely, but just so you know, like this isn't a way where you get to call your buddies to come over.
Well, and a lot
and
of sellers aren't going to
work.
let you stay that long on the pending
No.
status. I mean, my guy's been holding for 5 months, and
When I
he
did
was
it,
able to do so.
It was pre-COVID
Yeah.
for sure, because to your point, houses just haven't sat on the market long enough.
But anyway, all of these niches is just to me a way to keep the business very interesting, to be able to be in not a normal standard closing, which there really never is, but to just go around and do these different pockets because it keeps the day different. Every day is different, but I really enjoy doing these niches, and I just make sure that I'm well educated to say I can help you.
New construction also.
Yeah, new construction, that's a whole nother one that's just,
Bring an agent in, you know.
oh, yeah, duh.
Yeah. So, anyways, but so we're talking about all of that, and I don't know. You talk about like these other ones take longer, and it's interesting with where we're at with like days on market for stats, you know, because it's like I haven't done a reno loan in a while because most likely it would sell to somebody else before these days, before I could get the 203 or the reno loan done.
Right.
Short sale, right? Like you said, most buyers don't have that timeline. Like it's usually somebody who either has a house and can do it non-contingent, right? Or somebody who is renting or something of that nature, because it does take longer to do the process. And I don't know, days on market right now, it's really
Yeah, go with your stats because you told me your stats already, and I'm shocked.
Yeah, so in Fishers, I had 28 go on the market. 21 of them are still active, 7 pended, 29 total pended, so I lost 1 in inventory. I have 125 actually on the market. My active days on market, so if you're just an active house on the market, yeah, it's 80 in Fishers, it's 83 days. The current pending ones were 53 days, average days on market. For Noblesville, I had 32 go on the market. 20 of them are still active, so 12 pended, 17 total pended. So I actually picked up inventory there, so I have 94. My active days on the market is 113 actually, but like for everything that pended, it was 35. So it's really weird. I was talking to my teammate Jacob about it, and we were kind of looking at some of these numbers. And in January, the average days, or not average days on market, in January in Fishers, list to close ratio was 101% for price, right? So far in February, it is 93%. And so we're kind of trying to extrapolate what that would mean, that data, because we have seen a pickup in the market here in the past 2 weeks. So all of us have. And my current running theory on it is so why is list to sale ratio going down? My opinion currently is because we have an uptick in buyers and they are taking stale houses off the market, and because they're stale, they're offering under list. And so that's why that percentage is going down. Yes, it's because things are selling under list, but I think it's because of an uptick in buyers taking stuff off market.
Well,
That's my opinion. Like I said, I don't have enough.
But
to
if your
support
house
that
has
yet.
been sitting on the market for 80 days, as you're looking at, what happened in January or whatever, the 80 days on the market that, February. But the thing is that 80 days, like you said, those are houses that hit the market before Christmas, and they've all been sitting, and all of those sitting through the holidays. There was a slow time there, but they're also like my median, like in Carmel, we had 80 days, and the pending ones that closed, or actually went pending this past 7 days, it was 80 days on market with a median of 12. So I'm seeing the same thing happening in Carmel as the ones that just sold this past 7 days. They're pulling the ones that went on the market like 80 days ago. But because more buyers are in the market right now than they were over Christmas and January, they're grabbing what's out there because they want a house, and they weren't even looking back then. Nobody was looking back then. So now we're just taking the houses that hit the market before, when it was probably 75% less buyers. And the reason the buyers, which I was asked this morning at a board meeting, why are the buyers, what do you think is going to happen? And the buyers coming in is, my main thing is they gave up on waiting for the rates to go down.
Yeah.
They've been told since September, oh, they'll go down after the election. That didn't happen. They'll go down, and they're not, and they're like, we need to buy a house.
And I think some of those people are realizing that if they have that feeling, other people have that feeling, and the window to get a deal is rapidly disappearing, right? Like maybe you got like 3 weeks,
Well,
4 max.
Yeah, because
too many buyers will be in the market all of a sudden.
they are back. I mean, I just see, I have a listing, in the past 2 weeks, the showings really skyrocketed. Like, I don't know. But it's definitely, I think, going to be a really strong March, April with activity. And if your house is one of those ones that is competing with anybody, you better be competing with a beautiful home ready to go, because they do sit. We're seeing it. So my, with the past 30 days in Carmel sales, average was 31, but like I said, the current pending is 80, so it's jumping this week with clearing out that old inventory. 21 of them hit the market, and 11 of those pended, so that was really good in Carmel. In Westfield, 30 hit the market, 11 of those 30 pended, but a total of 26, so almost negative inventory again. And the average days on market in Westfield's 39 with a median of 20 this past 7 days. And then 30 days sold, there were 77 that actually sold with an average of 45 and a median of 22. So Westfield's a little faster. Then we have Zionsville, only 6 hit the market. 1 of those pended, but a total of 7 pended, so we lost inventory there. But their average and median days on market in Zionsville past 7 days was 71, so we cleared out inventory there that was old. And then list to sale ratio, or how many sold in Zionsville, was 16 with the average days on market of 46 and 10. So all of these stats with these big long days on market are showing that the old inventory is starting to go away. And if that starts to go away, the only ones we're going to have is the new ones that potentially were back in that sell on 4 days, offer in Sunday. Because if we start clearing out these that we're seeing, it's going to be just the houses hitting the market that are available to be bought.
Which is all fresh stuff. It's, I don't know what the market's going to be like. I have the same sentiment as you do, but I also thought that last year, and it lasted for like 5 weeks and disappeared.
Yeah.
It was really odd. So I don't know if that happens again. But I've gone out and looked at a crap ton of houses in the 350 to 5 range.
In Fisher's Knowles,
and they're just
everywhere?
so dated. And what's happening is I have clients who are wanting to, like, oh, but this will only cost 40 G's or 60 G's. I'm like, but do you have that?
That cash, yeah.
And do you want to live in a construction zone? Everybody says they want to live in a remodel. Maybe 1% of people actually do. Like it is.
That dust is the thing that would drive me nuts. The dust alone is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible.
And then what are you going to do while you don't have a kitchen? Right? Or if you don't have a bathroom.
Everybody's sharing one bathroom. Yeah.
And it's everybody loves the idea of it. I very rarely meet somebody who has the is in a place in life where they can either afford it financially, first of all, and then secondly, have the mental capacity to handle the stress of it.
Well, and that's, I think, when buyers say, well, let's just, if it needs inspection items done or anything like that, when they say, well, let's just ask them to lower the price by $10,000. And
You'll
I
never
said,
fix it yourself, though.
Yeah. Or do you have that extra $10,000 above and beyond your down payment? Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, is that what that means? I'm like, well, somehow it needs to be fixed, and it's going to be cash out of your pocket.
And it's only going to change your payment by $80 a month. So just have them redo the crawl space.
Yeah. And no, like you said, you'll just never do it.
You just won't. You won't. I mean, before I got into real estate, I didn't do it, right? Like when I show houses, I tell people that, we bought a house back in 2008, and it had 10 broken thermal steels, right? And I think we got like a $2,000 credit or something like that. I don't even remember. And when I sold it with 10 broken thermal seals because like we just never fixed it.
Do you know what I call that? Disney World money. Because I always joke, I'm like, we don't want to give the buyer that money because they're just going to go to Disney World on it. Yeah. They're not going to fix it.
Yeah, they're not.
Because it won't. It's just human nature. It's like, oh, we can live with that.
What is that? 2,000. So you figure 10,000 is $80 a month change on a mortgage. So what is that? 2,000. So what's that? $15. $15 a month is what that saved me on a mortgage for 10 years before I sold it.
Well, for you saved it because you didn't do it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But I don't know. I do think the market has picked up a lot. Nothing like insanely concerning or anything like that, but there are buyers out there. And
the reason I knew it was going to pick up is when we had that really bad snowstorm, the buyers were out. They didn't care.
They were out, actually.
And I just, in my listings, people were showing up and showing these houses, and I'm like, it's like 10 degrees out, and it's 8 to 10 inches of snow on the ground in front of you, and these buyers are still out. That's determination, and they're looking. These are serious buyers out there. They're not kicking tires. And I don't think we even have a lot of non-serious buyers anymore. For one, they have to sign that document that they're working with an agent, and that just causes a little kink for everybody to be, the only people I think that are kicking tires are the ones going to open houses.
Yeah. But open houses will pick up more traffic now because there's no football on Sundays now. Right? So, I don't know. It's just all, like, I love that we do this. I find it all very fascinating. I love our industry. I love my craft. I love diving into all of this stuff. It makes me better. That's why, I just know the more I know, the better of an agent I am. That's one of the reasons we like to do this, is to make other people better agents, but to make other people better consumers as well. And like, this is a massively stressful and important transaction in somebody's life, and it needs to be treated as such.
And if you're listening as an agent and just hearing all of this, we are just two people, what we're seeing or whatever, we try to keep a pulse. I know you and I both talk to a lot of people through the week to be able to talk on the podcast. But I just talked to somebody today, and they were hitting me with questions, and I was able to answer them. Like stat questions and where's the market going and who's this and who's that. And if you can just rattle that off.
And you know it, yeah.
And you know it, you'll get a listing appointment over somebody else.
And the thing, I already know all this data because I do it once a week. So when I do sit down on a house, I'm actually going into deeper data, right? To help me with something like that. It all matters. It all matters. A, for you as a professional, and B, for your client to have a professional experience. So,
yep.
I don't know. That's all I think we got for this week. I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker.
I'm Shelly Walters with the Shelly Walters Realty Group. You can reach me on my cell phone, 317-201-2601. What's your cell phone?
I forgot it. It's 317-649-5122. We're going to take a couple weeks off because Shelly's going to go get married. So congratulations to Shelly, and have fun.
Thank you.